It has been exactly 1 year and 3 days since those set pics of a mysterious villain in James Gunn's upcoming Superman film dropped, and I have spent every single day since then trying to figure out what he's hiding. Thankfully, if the big U on his chest wasn't a dead giveaway, merch has made it abundantly clear that this Black Noir doppelganger is Ultraman. But here's the thing, who is Ultraman? In the comics, he's Earth-3's version of Superman who basically uses kryptonite like a drug to get his abilities and fuel his lust for power. He's not exactly a great guy considering that he leads the Crime Syndicate, which is a top 3 most evil-sounding villain group name of all time, behind the Masters of Evil and Legion of Doom. But curiously enough, Ultraman does not look like this in the comics. He's nearly identical to the Prime Superman we all know and love, just with a big U on his chest instead of that iconic S. He's a real creative guy. So the fact that Gunn's take on this character has him fully covered from head to toe has to mean something, right? It's a conscious decision to not give the audience any semblance of what this guy looks like, which can only mean one thing. It's supposed to be a surprise. You wouldn't go out of your way to hide what a character looks like if you aren't planning on some big third act twist that completely recontextualizes the movie as we know it. I am determined to figure out what he's hiding and solve this mystery with the very little context clues we have, and honestly, I think I have a pretty good idea of what we can expect. And also a lot of bad ones, but we'll get to my delusions later. Let's look at the facts here, because I think there is one culprit who has more going for them than anyone else, and that is that Ultraman is a Superman clone. Despite barely getting a glimpse of him in the trailers, there's two things that have really stuck out to me. The first is this small moment with Lex's aggressively bald head. We see his crew breaking into the Fortress of Solitude, except for the fact that they aren't actually breaking into anything. The door just lets them in. So either Clark has the worst security system on the planet, or it's accessible by voice recognition, and I'm leaning towards the latter. The 5-minute preview Gunn dropped a few months ago seems to prove that, as Krypto is able to open the door with just a bark, which is so wholesome by the way. So if Lex is able to effortlessly get that door open, it must mean that he has somebody with him who can say those magic words. All respect to the engineer and Miss Tessmacher, but I don't think it's gonna be them. If Ultraman really is a clone of Superman, then he would have the exact voice needed to get those doors open. That is, assuming Lex just can't use a recording or something, because that blows my entire theory out of the water. So let's just forget that part and focus back on the cloning. The second piece of evidence is admittedly a little more vague, but we work with what we got, alright? In the tickets on sale trailer that dropped a few weeks ago, we see this mysterious long-haired man fighting Superman. I think it's safe to say that he has to be an unmasked Ultraman, right? There's no way there's another secret villain in this movie who they're trying to hide in all the marketing. That would be insane. This unmasked Ultraman is using a heat vision beam that is almost identical to that of Superman's, so surely that has to be a sign. In the 2 shots we saw of him, they went through a lot of effort to hide his face, and I think that has to be done for a reason. They don't want us to suspect the twist, but they can't fool me, alright? I see right through those lies. They probably just gave him longer hair to make it easier to distinguish between the two and hide VFX shots, but I also think it's some great visual storytelling. Seeing this neat, tidy, and purely good Superman fight a messy, unkempt clone who does Lex's bidding works so well. But stepping away from all the evidence and towards the actual storytelling of it all, an evil Superman clone actually makes a lot of sense in this film's narrative and is something I genuinely want to see. And that says a lot because I am the #1 evil Superman hater. Just the mere thought usually disgusts me, but I think there's a very interesting meta-narrative at play that could utilize him really well. It's been theorized a lot that Gunn's Superman movie is going to be a reverse Kingdom Come of sorts, meaning that instead of a pure world turned bleak with violence and vengeance, it's Superman's arrival that restores a sense of hope and humanity in all of its heroes. The status quo at the start of the film seems to have the Justice Gang as a corporate superhero team being funded by Maxwell Lord, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out why that's such a bad idea in-universe. Having Superman show up and inspire the people around him to be independent heroes doing things only because they're right is exactly the kind of Superman storytelling I have longed to see, and I think that Ultraman could be the icing on the cake of that entire situation. Using an evil Superman to tell a story about how much evil Superman sucks by showing audiences how an inspirational Superman is supposed to be is the only way an evil Superman should ever be used. I said Superman way too many times in that sentence, but I think you get my point. There's a really interesting meta-narrative to be told here that I think needs to be heard by the general audience. People who still wrongly think that Superman is boring and only interesting when he's evil can see firsthand why that take on the character is inherently flawed. Superman can metaphorically and also literally beat that idea out of the public consciousness by defeating Ultraman and letting hope reign supreme, showing us that we don't need some edgy, corporate-controlled savior when there's a mild-mannered farm boy who does what he does for the sheer reason that he wants to help the world be a better place. It's a really exciting reinvention of the Ultraman character that still makes him the evil Superman archetype he is in the comics. And it also would tie really well into Lex's arc in the film. Lex has made it very clear that he thinks Superman is subhuman. He does not look at that man kindly, literally calling him an it in the trailers. His pettiness is so strong that he's more than willing to get xenophobic as hell just because he can't stand the sight of someone getting more praise and attention than him. In Lex's eyes, Superman didn't have to work a day in his life. He was born with those powers and cut the line to fame while he worked hard to earn his spot at the top, even if he is just an asshole and sometimes a nepo baby. But that jealousy of Superman would drive him to hypocrisy as he puts that big bald head to use and clones him to have his own private Superman. That way Lex is still getting all the attention. It would be such an interesting idea to give Lex this kind of vendetta against a man who hardly even knows who he is and is so unbothered by his actions. Maybe he even creates the Hammer of Boravia too to try and paint Superman as the villain. You know, the famous comic book character the Hammer of Boravia? We all love that guy. And if you agree with that, then you're a liar because he was created entirely for this movie, which only makes me think more that he's funded by Lex. Using him as a puppet to try and turn the world against Superman for making a war worse, only to have his Ultraman come in to clean up the mess and act as the real hero would be peak Lex characterization, and it gives Superman a fight on two fronts. Not just physically, as he has to beat Ultraman to a pulp, but in the court of public opinion, as he has to win them back over. And that's where Lois comes in, as she can use her journalist powers to expose Lex. Because as someone who studied journalism, we all get superpowers when we graduate. It doesn't have to end there though, because we could take things a step further with my next theory. Maybe, just maybe, Ultraman's identity is revealed to be Bizarro, the mirror image of Superman in every possible way. Where Clark has heat vision and freeze breath, Bizarro has heat breath and freeze vision, even going as far as being dumb as rocks and speaking as if it were always opposite day. And also he comes from a place called Bizarro World where the Earth is a cube. That's not really relevant to the video, I just think it looks funny. But let's say everything in my previous and very long-winded prediction still happens, but there's one last twist saved for the end of the film. Throughout the movie, there should be signs of instability in Lex's Ultraman. The science isn't all there, and you can tell that there's something bubbling up under the surface, as if he's running around on borrowed time, and the ticking clock in his brain is set to go off any minute now, and it's not like Lex cares because he could just make another clone. He could see Ultraman slowly break down until he's a shell of his former self, and the kryptonite powering him becomes an addiction that corrupts him into becoming Bizarro. He's no longer listening to Lex, he's making decisions for himself. It's a kind of poetic justice that would help turn the public back against Lex. The monster he created and he championed is now causing irreversible amounts of damage and chaos. Lex's pride and jealousy got the better of him, but it's the city of Metropolis that has to pay the price. Still, even in his darkest hour, he's not gonna ask Superman for help. But it doesn't matter. Superman never needed anyone's permission to save lives. He would be in there fighting Bizarro before Lex even realized what was happening. And that's the beauty of it. Just by being himself and continuing to do the right thing, he's able to show the citizens of Metropolis that he's there to help them. It doesn't matter that they hate him. It doesn't matter if they love him. He's going to save lives regardless because it's the right thing to do. That kind of inspirational messaging is right at home in a Superman movie and would give us such a beautiful third act. And also, Clark shouldn't kill Bizarro. He knows what it's like to be overwhelmed with these abilities and should do all that he can to stop Bizarro, talk to him, and put him on the path of rehabilitation, taking the last thing Lex created and purifying it in a way that only Superman could. The ultimate F you to Lex Luthor. But maybe you don't love that idea, and that's fine. You don't have to like everything I say. It hurts and I'm gonna take it personally, but we can take this in an entirely different direction with my third theory. If there's one thing we know about James Gunn, it's that he loves to adapt unknown characters. This is the same guy who put Arm Fall Off Boy in a multi-million-dollar summer blockbuster. He must get the craziest high from plucking a character out of obscurity and making them a household name, and maybe that's what he's doing here. There's a little-known Superman villain who goes by the name of, okay, well I don't actually know how to pronounce his name. It's on screen right now, so give it your best shot because I am just completely lost here. My gut says it's pronounced Hel, but Hel is more fun and a lot easier to say, so I'm gonna go with that for the rest of the video. Hel is a relatively new character created by Mike Johnson in Supergirl issue number 13 in 2012. Now, this next part might be a little bit of a stretch, but just please hear me out. The main reason I'm connecting Ultraman to Hel is because that mysterious unmasked figure looks strikingly similar to Hel's comic appearance. At least, I think he does. It's hard to tell from so far away, but bear with me because I think there's a really fascinating story you could do with him. In the comics, Hel is a Kryptonian clone who is tasked with protecting Krypton's history and knowledge among their oncoming destruction. Yes, I know, another clone theory, but you gotta understand that this reveal has to be something big. Basically, he's another secret survivor who was sent out in a pod that didn't arrive to Earth for decades. From there, he basically wants to restore Krypton at the cost of Earth. It's classic villain stuff. This guy is a real piece of work. But perhaps he's actually Ultraman and Lex is manipulating him to get what he wants. An enemy of my enemy is my friend type situation where Lex is happy to work alongside a Kryptonian when the end result is his chrome dome on top, especially considering that I think they could be adapting an idea from Birthright here. In that comic, Lex creates this lie that Krypton was actually evil as a way to turn the public against Superman. He plans this whole big fake invasion that he would pin on the Kryptonians, instilling this sense of fear in them that at any moment, Superman's true nature will be revealed when he finally snaps and tries to destroy them. It's a twisted and exciting move that I think could be adapted here using Hel as a stand-in. Lex could use him just long enough until he doesn't need him as a muscle anymore, and then expose his true nature as a hostile Kryptonian here to conquer the Earth alongside Superman. Spinning this narrative and framing things as if he was working alongside Superman the entire time, immediately painting him as a villain, while the hero Lex saves the day and apprehends this dangerous traitor. On top of that though, there's one thing from the trailers that I haven't been able to place, and it's this scene where protesters are firmly against Superman. It seems to contradict all the hopeful messaging we've seen, so something has to happen for the public to turn against him, and I think this could be it. It's then up to Clark to try and clear his name and stop Hel from bringing Krypton back, which could be what's happening here. The newest trailer showed Metropolis splitting in half, and that caught me completely off guard because I have no idea who could be causing that. Even some of the strongest villains couldn't pull off a feat like that, and the power signatures don't really match anyone else we've seen, but maybe that's because it's Hel's doing. The movie was originally called Superman Legacy for a reason, and this could be why. Clark is put in a story that directly challenges his legacy on multiple fronts as his reputation and family history are dragged through the mud by a clone identical to him, and it's up to Superman to stop it. Let's take a step back from all the clone theories for a second though, because there is one other idea I had that I think could be refreshing for a live-action Superman movie. What if Ultraman is actually Parasite? This theory has much less proof than the others, but I honestly think the idea behind it works too well to ignore. So much of the concept art of Ultraman has curiously shown him wearing a purple costume, which the trailers haven't even hinted at. Originally, I thought it was just some late game change for the movie, but then this action figure dropped and it gave me a perfect theory. A battle-damaged Ultraman showing that the more damage he takes, the more purple he becomes, which could mean nothing and is just a stylistic choice, or it's a tease that he's actually supposed to be a take on my favorite Superman villain, Parasite. For the uninitiated, Rudy Jones, aka Parasite, is a Superman villain who feeds on energy to survive, and I think that could be what Ultraman is doing here. He's becoming purple because he's absorbing that energy, and over the course of the movie, we're gonna see him grow and transform into the monstrous Parasite we all know and love. Maybe he's even that pink thing in the sky from that suit reveal last year, or that's just a crazy reach, I don't know. Just let me try and connect the dots in peace. Parasite would work really well as a secondary villain in this movie because he's someone who can actually even the playing field for Lex. Let's say that Lex discovered Rudy and promised that he would give him all the energy he needs to keep him satisfied. Considering how much Lex despises metahumans, he could use Rudy's abilities to his benefit and take all these metahumans off the board. We know from the trailers that Lex has a prison filled with metahumans like Metamorpho that Superman is taken to at one point in the film. Perhaps he's letting Rudy absorb their energy to survive, as Lex is able to get these metas off the streets and purifying his city, making sure that people have no choice but to pay attention to him, not these cheap superheroes. And with Superman out and about, Lex could keep Parasite as his personal bodyguard there to suck the energy out of him if Clark ever even dared to step to Lex, making him extremely vulnerable and weakened like we see at this point here. How else would someone like Superman get his ass kicked that badly? If he was weakened by an energy-sucking parasite who left him defenseless enough to get punched across the globe, then it makes complete sense why he needed a sunbath to get his energy restored. And the big issue with this theory is that he's rebranded as Ultraman and given a full bodysuit, but I think that's exactly the kind of thing Lex Luthor would do. He would look like the biggest hypocrite alive if the public found out that he was working with a metahuman, so hiding Parasite's identity and turning him into a bodyguard distracts them from his fraudulent activities and still lets Lex get away with this meta camp that he's running in the shadows. This would be a genuine twist that I don't think anyone would see coming, all while still tying into the themes of Superman as this all-powerful immigrant that Lex fears. Knowing James Gunn, he's still gonna find a way to surprise me with Ultraman's true identity. He's fantastic at taking ideas that the audience expects and elevating them with subversive storytelling that turns something predictable on its head. If I had to choose which theory I like the most, surprisingly enough, it's the evil Superman clone. I can't believe I'm advocating for that, but as much as I would love to finally see Parasite adapted like this, there's a really unique opportunity for the DCU to kick off with a bang that makes its intentions clear from the start, showing us that superheroes are independent and inspirational icons as Superman leads the charge on this global revolution towards making the world a better place, and that all starts with an evil clone he can beat the shit out of as we finally put that miserable trope out to pasture. Whether he's an evil Superman clone, Bizarro, Hell, Parasite, or something completely different, I have complete faith in Gunn's vision. He's never let me down before, and I cannot wait to see what he's cooking up here. Or maybe he's just Doomsday or something, and we're right back where we started in the DCEU. You know, come to think of it, his design does kind of resemble Doomsday's original look in the comics. Just swap out that green for black and it is scarily similar. Oh my god, what if DC is back in this loop of bizarre creative decisions again and they kill off Superman again? What if they do something even stupider and it's actually Supergirl or something? James Gunn sure does love his family drama, and this could tie together into the legacy themes.
And why stop there? Maybe this isn't even a DC character. Maybe this is James Gunn himself. He's been part of this marketing more than almost anyone else. Maybe it's a sign that he's actually been the Ultraman this entire time.
And you know what? I've lost the plot. The delusions finally broke me. I'm gonna go get the Superman Blizzard and calm down.
Here we go. Okay, that's actually really good. You know what? I don't know if this audio is usable, but that's really good. I'm a big fan.
But why don't you let me know who you think Ultraman really is? I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, feel free to give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you do it, I'll give you a bite of my Superman Blizzard, but you gotta act fast because this is good as hell and I really want to eat the rest of it.